everybody to our online program on addiction and recovery from the Sunshine Coast Health Centre up here in Powell River, BC. And we're talking about one of these principles of meaningful living. And the principle is living from the inside out. And there's a problem of living from the outside in, as we've been talking about, is that if you look to the outside world quite consistently, which a lot of people in active addiction and early recovery do, it's always a two-edged sword, right? On the one hand, let's say people pat you on the back and say, oh, you did a great job. So that's good. You get lots of self-esteem, self-confidence. But on the other hand, what if they don't do that? What if they give you the finger instead, right? Then you take it as a personal insult, right? And this is a real problem with these people. It's almost like, well, to put it, not to put too fine a point on it, like they're puppets. Depending on what's going on outside of them, they are in a good mood, bad mood, neutral, but they're always reacting to the outside world. And this is not a good recipe for recovery, and it's certainly not a good recipe to live this fulfilling, meaningful life. And so the idea is to make this shift to this new way of living that where the individual feels he's in charge or she's in charge, where he or she feels that the life that they're living is the one that they would choose to live, where they're feeling fulfilled. And along with that, as we know from psychological research, generally includes self-confidence, good self-esteem, and an emotional stability. In other words, because things are anchored inside themselves, they're not like a kite in the wind, depending on which way the breeze is blowing, because they find the anchor within themselves. In many respects, it doesn't matter if a family member gets mad at them, because they're still secure in themselves. So this is the place we want to get. One of the most graphic examples, and one that I like to use here, is on the weekends at Sunshine Coast, particularly Sundays. And the new clients generally complain, oh geez, there's nothing to do here, there's no activities. Oh, God. And basically they're left to their own devices. And because they're so used to living from the outside in, they rely on the outside world to keep them entertained, to structure their life. If they're left to their own devices, then what do? Right? And so the comments come in, oh geez, nothing's going on, it's so boring and everything. And it's interesting that the clients have been here a few weeks. They generally have a much different take on it. They welcome the time, the downtime, to engage in things that they find personally interesting. Right? And this transformation, which we see here every week at the center, to watch the new clients as they progress through it from this external orientation or relying on the outside world to dictate, the choices or how they are going to feel about their lives, versus the clients who have been here for a while who have now started taking control of their lives, who are now making decisions for themselves that will help them after they leave us. Right? So it's this really interesting dynamic that goes on, and again, it's all based on this concept of transformation from living this life from the outside in to living this life from the inside out, where the individual becomes the author of his or her life, and where the individual feels in control of his life. And we do know that the benefits of this are, of course, higher self-esteem, higher self-confidence, versus the people who live from the outside in generally tend to be a lot more insecure. Even little things like getting a root canal, for instance, and oh my goodness, this is just terrible. Being in debt, all of these things become so horrific for that. But if they are anchored within themselves, all of these things are put in context of this bigger picture that the client has for himself. Anyway, that's it for this week, and we'll be back next time with another edition.